Hello, everybody. So I'm just starting the live streaming on the YouTube. So it's just gonna take another 10 seconds and then we're ready. All right, sounds good. So I'm happy to... Hello, everybody. So I'm just starting the live stream on the YouTube. Okay, 10 seconds. That happens. Just a second, let me disable that one. All right, sounds good. Okay, that works now. So let me share my screen again. Cool. All right. Hi, happy to welcome everybody on today's OnProduct number 28 meetup. And as a usual introduction, a brief intro of what OnProduct is. We are a living community of designers, product managers, engineers, QA specialists, people who are generally involved in building digital products. And we meet on a monthly basis in such events like today's meetup to discuss trendy topics that are hot in the industry. And today we're going to talk about machine learning in design, and that's why Florian, our speaker, is joining here today as well. So what is OnProduct and what is our main goal? Besides having this living community, we encourage you to reach out to the participants and discuss new ideas and ways of working and building products. And this is all to help you to step outside of your comfort zone and actually learn about the world and help you to solve your day-to-day tasks in a more efficient way. And that's why our community is a no bullshit community. So every meetup that we organize should bring you a purpose in terms of and value in terms of applying new ways at work. So it should be useful to you. And today we're going to use Slido as usual. So please scan the code. And if you don't scan it, I will post the link anyways in the chat. And last but not least, and let me share my screen again. And our speaker today is Florian. Florian is co-founder and CEO of Uizard Technologies, and Uizard Technologies is a startup that's using AI-powered technology to change the way how people build software. And Uizard is a startup that raised 2.8 million, correct me if I'm wrong, Florian, back in 2019. It's Copenhagen-based, and it has been featured in the signature magazines like Wired, Forbes, Huffington Post, and so on. So I think on this note, Florian, stage is yours. I'll make you co-host so that you can also share your screen. And yes.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Elise.
Yeah.
And indeed, you're correct. So we've launched the company. We started around 3 years ago. We've raised 2 rounds of funding, actually. The last one was indeed 2.8 million. The first one was around 800,000. Then we've recently just launched the product. I'll start sharing my screen, and let's see. Here we go. You should be able to see everything now. So thank you very much for the introduction. Today I'll be talking about democratizing design with AI. So very much when I talk about design is digital products. So the designing of prototypes, of apps, of websites, and of these. And how do we democratize this, and why do we need to democratize this now? So a little bit on a high level on the industry. Still on a daily basis, we're having 14,000 new websites uploaded to the internet and over 2,000 new apps uploaded to the different app stores. So still today, it's just the amount of new products being built, digital products, is immense. Looking a little bit at the workflow, we all hope it's a very linear, straightforward workflow. The user has some needs, you create some wireframes from it, you start working on the user experience of it, you prototype a more high fidelity prototype of it, the UI designers makes it even nicer, you create, you develop it, and there you go, everyone's happy and we have a great product. In reality, as we're all working with product, we know that this is not how it works. There's just iterations up and down. You go through one of the final stages, then suddenly you need to redo something, you need to come back at the beginning, and there's just so much work being done multiple times. And this is just because coming up with new innovative ideas is very difficult. We don't know where we're going to. We just have a set of problems, but no solutions, and we're trying to find a solution. I often like to compare this to navigating a maze. We start at point A somewhere, and we don't know if a path will lead to something successful before having actually undertaken it, tested it, and seen. We have some high-level assumptions at the beginning. We can see that the trees there are lower than other ones, so possibly the exit will be on that side of the maze, but that's more or less it. And this is what triggers so much iterations, back and forth and everything. So over the last 5 years, or before that actually, more between 2012, 2017, a lot of the big companies have started realizing this over time. So when the internet came out and all the digital products were coming along, all corporations thought the more developers I have, the better product I can create. And this was indeed the case back then. But then they realized that to beat competitors and to have better products, it was about the design and it was about the user experience and everything you bring within that product. And we can see that some of the shift in terms of ratio between the amount of engineers to designers in a company has completely shifted. So IBM is the most extreme one. In 2012, they used to have 1 designer for every 72 developers in-house. 5 years later, 1 designer for 8 developers. So we can see that companies overall in the entire world really have noticed this after 2010-ish and have been focusing much more on creating better design, better user experience. So to achieve this, there's a few things that have been developed. So one of them is definitely design thinking. And the other one that you're probably familiar with is the design sprint. What we think is extremely interesting when we look at this is that the profiles of the people that take part in this is not only the UI designer, the one that used to be responsible for making everything nice and creating all the styling in the application or the website, but it is also the product manager, UX designers, user researchers, sometimes even marketing people, some domain experts. But what we think is interesting is that all the tools that have been evolved over the last decade or so have all been targeting designers. When we look a little bit at the evolution, so it all started with Photoshop a long time ago. And then Sketch came out in 2010, Figma, as most of you are probably aware of, in 2016, and then Adobe in 2016. These are all amazing tools, and you can create breathtaking prototypes inside of them, but it takes time to learn them, to master them, and it just takes time to create prototypes. And when we look at the design sprint with all the different profiles that interact in there, it's mainly the UX and UI designers that have the experience to use such tools, but all the other ones need to communicate orally on a visual product. So yeah, as I was saying, all these tools have been created with designers in mind. And unfortunately, we've not been thinking of all these new profiles of people that are interacting while building products. So before going further, I'd like to look at other industries and what has happened. So for example, looking at the photography industry. Photography industry has been around for around a century or so. Late 1800s, 1888, the first commercial Kodak came out. A big box, none of us remember it, of course. Heavy box, very difficult to use. Around 100-ish year later, we had the first digital camera that came out from them. Very specialized product, would take very long to master before being able to create something from it. And then we had, in 2007, Apple that came out with the first iPhone. This suddenly gave a higher quality camera in everyone's pocket. From this, Instagram came 3 years later that with smart softwares allowed you to start taking pictures of much higher quality without needing to know any of the experience and everything on how to take pictures. Now, 2020, we have over 100 million photos being uploaded to Instagram every single day. And this is, I think, the industry that has been democratized the most and in the fastest way. Within a decade, we're now shifted from everyone being able to take more or less professional pictures. The big difference between them is that you still have the two sides of the market. You have the expert, there's a high learning curve, it's hard to use, and then the mainstream, easy to use. So the expert still wants to be able to have the ability, the customization and everything. And this is what we see in the design tools as well. All these other design tools like a Figma, a Sketch, and Adobe XD allow you to have this customization. You create everything from vectors, you can push everything pixel on pixel. So this is how we see as an expert user. On the other side, you have the mainstream user who doesn't want to go into the details, but just wants to communicate what they're doing or what they're seeing. In this case, it's an everyday person that just wants to take a picture, wants it to look good, at least the 90% of it, to be able to share it to their friends, their peers, and everyone. On one hand, the person does the hard work, and on the other hand, the technology does the hard work. So looking a little bit at AI in general, because we're talking about AI a lot in the news, what has been the advancement of AI over the recent history? A lot of people think it's brand new. AI came out 3 years ago, and that's why it's hitting all the newspapers. But actually, in reality, that's absolutely not true. AI has been a technology that's been working on for over around 70 years now. We've had different summers and winters, how we call them, where suddenly a lot of money was being pumped into it, a lot of research, and then it would just kind of die down and come back. What we've seen in recent years, after 2010, is that the amount of investment in AI startup just picked up drastically. And that's same with the amount of annual published papers. So what's interesting is that when I compare back to the democratization of photography, the reason this is happening right now is that we're seeing that we have the computing power to be able to train the models that we created beforehand, and now we have the hardware possible to go forward with it. And that's very similar to the iPhone that was released that then allowed the hardware to bring the democratization to everyone for other people to then be able to build softwares on top of it. And this is very similar with AI. Now that we have the hardware with the computing power to train these models, we can now actually start bringing value from these models rather than purely experiments. So looking a little bit at AI in the creative industry in general. So some of the things that we've seen is, for example, with music. JukeTech. So JukeTech is a AI company where you can decide a mood, you can decide what kind of music you want, and it automatically just creates a song for you or background music for you, completely new. So the interesting thing for this, for example, when you're looking at marketers or other ones, is that you can now create background music for videos, for anything, completely royalty-free, brand new, unique, and just instant. It can match the style that you want. It can match the mood that you want. So very interesting. Next to that, we have Prisma. Most of you might have heard of it, where you can just simply take a picture, you run it through this AI that matches a different style, and you can start creating these breathtaking pictures instantly. Last but not least, we also have Synthesia. So Synthesia is a startup that launched a few months back. What they're doing is that they leverage AI to do the voiceover on an actor of something that you type. So for example, if you're doing a sales pitch or you're trying to do a video or to explain something, you can use their servers and then just type what you want a specific voice actor to say. And thanks to AI, the voice and everything will just match perfectly. So with those, it's already very exciting to see how AI is starting to influence parts of the creative industry. But the big question is, can we leverage AI to democratize design thinking and accelerate the workflow of building your application, building your websites? And that's a little bit the quest that we've jumped onto around 3 years ago. On one end, you have, so as we said, the big benefit of it is that on one end, you still have the expert tools, very much like the democratization of photography, targeted towards UI designer and all the experts that really want to be able to have the flexibility. And on the other one, you have the easy to use with the technology assisted tool. In terms of the people using it, the way we see it, UI designers, UX designers, they're already trained. They can use the expert tools, and all the other ones taking part in design thinking and design sprints would gain a lot of value of an easier to use tool. So we started looking at the workflow in general, and we looked, where can we help? Where do these people interact during this workflow? And then we noticed that the area where the most different types of professional backgrounds interacted together was during the ideation phase. All the way at the beginning, the product manager interacts with the end user and knows some of the requirements they have. Designers is there as well. So our thought was, what do people use right now to ideate, and how can we help augment these people at this point? We saw from a great survey run every year that actually 87% of the people still start with pen and paper, or it can be on paper, it can be whiteboard, it can be on a tablet, but still start with a hand-drawn. And just the idea to rapidly sketch an idea to be able to communicate this one actually. So as I was just mentioning, hand drawing is still king. Even though we have screens everywhere around us, this is still the easiest and best way for us to brainstorm on a visual idea. So we decided to apply AI to enhance, augment, facilitate this entire workflow. But what is AI? Because AI is a big buzzword that you hear absolutely everywhere in the news. Some of the people are scared because they think that AI is going to come replace all the professional jobs that we have right now. But all in all, AI itself is a big circle, as you have it here, a big bubble. Within AI, you can find machine learning. And then within machine learning, you can find deep learning. And this is a little bit more of the models that we use within AI and what the media likes to call AI, but what we use within Wizards to train or to automate some of the process. Within deep learning, you have computer vision. You may have heard this, the ability to recognize different pixels, recognize physical visual things. You have speech synthesis. You have natural language processors, being able to recognize written things. And all of this combined is what we use to be able to automate parts of the workflow. So the way we see it is that you would have AI as the interface. The brain is in the middle. The technology does all the hard work. The complexity is hidden away. And the learning curve is low. What you have is that you have all the domain experts, UX designers, product managers, and other ones creating wireframes. They're being thrown in what we call the wizard brain, but this can be any type of AI that just converts this and augments this. You have the chief of product UX researcher that can interact with it, and then you can spit out different things towards the UI designers and front-end developers to move forward and build the end application. All in all, we see a world where you have all the people that interact with all the end users and everything, that interact with all the people building the product, all together with an algorithm in the middle that helps augment and speak the same language. So without further ado, I'll jump into a quick demo of the tool, what we have, and how we see AI being able to be used during product development. I have here the platform open next to me. From here, you can create a project. Let's create a new project. So let's say my app. It will be a mobile, and I can take different themes, but I'll go more in depth with that in just a second. I'm thrown with already a screen there as an example. I can remove it. But from here, I can start importing hand-drawn wireframes. So that's what I was mentioning just before. We can convert these wireframes into digital UIs. So for the ease of the demo right now, I already have a few wireframes drawn on a piece of paper. I have the pictures here. As you can see, very quick sketches, because during this process, you need to be able to iterate very fast, just sketch rapidly. And you can take pictures from your phone directly. In this case, I'll just throw them into the platform this way. And at this point, the AI or the different models that we have scans the picture, tries to understand every single pixel, and from that tries to understand the meaning behind it, the intention of the user, and will digitalize this in different components. So we have the first one that came through already. The two other ones are still going. Here's one of the example of the original one with what it came out with. Now we can see that this one's converted as well, and the last one will convert in just a second. I can already see from here, as all AIs and other things that you've probably tried here and there, nothing is perfect yet. Some of the pictures here didn't align perfectly, but all in all, I'm fairly happy with the result. I can just take it from here. You can, as other tools, modify and build upon. Let's say that you've done your design sprint, you've done all your sketches and everything, you've imported, you've digitalized, you're now further away, you're not in that room anymore, and you want to actually build upon this, but you don't want to go back to hand drawing. And that's not the problem, because then you can just keep on going within the same screen, start building. For example, in my little travel app, I want a login page. I could very easily just drag and drop an image there. That could be the logo. I could add an input text for the what's called the email. I could put another input text for the password that comes there, and then with a button underneath for the login form. So you can very easily just drag and drop components. Very different to some of the design tools as well, is that instead of playing with vectors and instead of having the customization ability, like I was saying, where in those two to create a button, you would create a rectangle on which you put a label, and this then becomes a button. For us, we just stripped all those concepts, and we only have those individual components that you find within all these apps and websites. So you would have sliders, checkboxes, and all these other ones. We have a few templates as well, in case you want to build faster. If I want to build a login screen, for example, I can just drag a login form into it and add it to the page. And that's another way of building the application. But anyhow, very fast from the AI, we've been able to convert a few of these hand-drawn wireframes into more digitalized product. And we can now create the interactive flow from it. So we can say, for example, you come from your login page. This will bring you to the home page. If you click this card, it will go here. Home will bring you, oh, what am I doing? Home will bring you back home. And then let's just leave it to that. We can add the settings menu as well. So within just a few seconds, I have a prototype here that I can now test. I can preview. I can look how they're doing. Oh, you can see that I have to set my home screen still with the little thing to my login screen. I come from here. I can test it. I can click. I can see what I've built. And there we go. If you want to enhance this and take it to the next level, of course, we want to be able to add our own content. This is straightforward. Change the images. If this is a travel app, I'm calling you right now from Amsterdam. So I'm taking Amsterdam as an example. Let's do this. And then we have the imagery thrown into there. But this is one way of rapidly building. And this is where the AI, for example, with the hand-drawn conversion can really help people that take part in the sketching, but have never built a digital prototype, take that first step, jump into that, and then refine from there. With templates and everything, you can build upon it. But one of the other features that we see as well with helping people that are less used to designing with design tools is the theme. So how did we convert these hand-drawn wireframe into this style things? That's thanks to the themes that we have. You can create a theme from scratch. My app, I can call it. And here you can go into the details where you can go for example, your button, what the padding will be, the border radiuses, the fonts, all the different details that you have. But what we also saw very fast is that this can be, again, very intimidating with someone that doesn't use these concepts all the time. For example, padding in a button is very straightforward for a developer and a designer, but a product manager that tries to communicate this doesn't always know these concepts. And therefore, we've also added another feature of AI because we like to automate as much as possible to create these themes automatically from pictures. So what you can do is that you can just add an image. I'll call it my app 2. I took a quick image of the meetup banner, the top banner of the website. It's again just the image, a screenshot I took just a few minutes ago, and I can upload this on in there. Again, we're going to have a model that then scans the picture. This can take a little bit of time because it tries to understand all the different elements that are there, recognize some of the things. So right now I put the top banner of a website. So there's going to be a button. There's going to be some of these things that the algorithm can extract from there. For example, as you can see, the colors. You can take the original picture. Let's see what it has done. So in the original picture, we can see that indeed the buttons has the primary color and everything. It took this color as a secondary color that is present quite a lot in the picture. So you can see this as taking a screenshot from a website, but you could also, if you are in need of inspiration, just take a picture of nature or something with colors that you like, input this and see what comes up as a theme based on those styling and based on those colors. So let's see if I go a little bit down, I can see. And I can see, for example, they took the secondary color for the cards, and it just inputted a few things. If I want to change this, of course I can. And it's just done like this. But the fun part is now we've uploaded or we've created an entire theme in a matter of seconds with the fonts and everything. And just before that, we created a quick prototype in a matter of also a few minutes, just from a few hands-on wireframes. We can now start jumping between all these different themes. So we can test the different styling that we've had before just instantly. So for example, my new theme, my app 2, switch to theme, and there we go. Now we have the meetup styled environment applied to the travel app that I was creating just before. Can flick back to a different one. These are some of the pre-made themes that we have in there. But as you can see, you can just within seconds test, iterate, and move forward. One of the things that we've seen as well is that for you, as we want to try to bring all the people together during the ideation phase, we know from UX designers that during this ideation phase, you sometimes want to test in low fidelity. And what I mean with low fidelity is back to those wireframes, black and white, no coloring, no pictures, because when you're user testing and you're testing, for example, the flow between different components and different screens, the last thing you want is the user to come back to you and say, yeah, I don't think the colors of that picture match this button, because this is not what you're testing at this point. And that's where we have added the hands-on wireframe. Very similar to a balsamic where you just switch it and all these components turn back into a hands-on wireframe that you can test for that part. You can export it to different things. You can share it around with your team. So all in all, it's an environment that we've decided to or try to create to remove all these barriers of entry, as I was speaking about during the presentation, and try to allow anyone to build a quick app and prototype of an app as fast as possible. What we do know is that we don't have the customization abilities that you have into a Sketch, that you have into a Figma, and that we have in these ones. So comparing these two products wouldn't be the right way of going around it. This is more ideation, taking everyone together, brainstorming, trying to come up with something that everyone agrees on visually, and then moving it forward, and then using the other tools to really refine and to really build the breathtaking UIs that designers are building nowadays, and just moving this one forward towards the developers. So this was my presentation. I'm ready to take any questions. Thanks a lot for listening.
Thank you, Florian. I think if I understand correctly, like Zoom message that I just got is I have two Zoom accounts, right? And one is licensed and one is not licensed. And I'm unfortunately saying that the one that is currently on is unlicensed one. So that's why I am switching on currently. I provided you the link to the licensed account. So if you could, I hope that is like the right one. So if you could just switch on, so basically everybody will have to leave now and go to this to the new links that I provided in the chat. Very sorry for that. I hope that didn't impact the presentation that you kind of like that you had to rush through it.
No worries, though. I went a little bit faster towards the end, but no worries at all.
Okay, good. So I'm gonna stay on the call and wait that everybody just clicks on the new link, and then I will probably see you there. Yep. So once again, please, everybody, move to this new link. Okay. No, this is not a new link. So let me just create a new event for us. This is such an interesting thing because I'm creating the event in my licensed account, and it somehow is fetching a different event, which is a little bit of a bummer. So just a second, let me just post another link. So Okay. And yep. Okay, less than a minute. Let's try this one. Very sorry for inconvenience. So. Okay, another 6 people, please try with the new one. 5. I'm just gonna wait until Annette, Gaurav, Niels, Prajval. Yep. Gaurav and Prajval, please join the new links that I just provided in the chat.